Here's our ELN Easy Guide to the energy sector. The energy sector is vital for the UK. In 2012, it was worth £102 billion to the UK economy, invested £11.6 billion in energy infrastructure, that's like building 20 Olympic stadiums, and it paid £3 billion in tax. Energy is made up of four parts: generation, distribution, supply, and policy and regulation. Let's start with generation. We have four major kinds of generation: fossil fuel, mainly coal and oil, nuclear, gas, and renewables. We used to rely overwhelmingly on coal, and it was used to power the vast majority of our stations. But because of emissions laws, we're closing them down, and currently have only a handful of coal plants left. There are 8 nuclear power stations, but there are plans to build at least 2 new ones and many more if funding can be found over the next 20 years. Gas is now made up of conventional gas and unconventional gas. Conventional gas is either produced in the North Sea, imported from other countries through international pipes called interconnectors, or it arrives in the UK in the form of liquefied natural gas, also called LNG. This is shipped in big oil tankers from other parts of the globe. Unconventional gas comes from new sources of gas. The vast majority is shale, which is produced by fracking. We haven't started producing any here yet, but it's a source the government are keen to exploit. Renewable generation is overwhelmingly made up of wind, offshore, i.e. at sea, and onshore, on the land. Surprisingly, despite our weather, we also have solar power from PV. Next, there's energy from burning biomass, and finally a tiny bit of marine energy from waves and tides. Now, once we've made our power, we have to get it to where it's needed, and that's called distribution. Our gas and electricity is distributed differently. Gas is pumped along huge pipes in a network that crosses the country. This is called the gas distribution network, which is made up of 8 companies. They're all monopolies which pump the gas from power stations or gas terminals to our cities and towns. There are also 6 independent gas transporters, or IGTs. They pipe the gas to a small number of homes and businesses. They often connect people who are in hard-to-connect places. And finally, some people live off-grid and have to have their gas delivered in canisters direct to their homes by lorries. Electricity is a bit more complicated. We have a transmission network and a distribution network. The transmission network is a network of very high voltage power lines and pylons that takes electricity from a power station vast distances across the country. This network is overseen by one system operator, the National Grid, which has to make sure the UK has all the power it needs when it needs it. But confusingly, National Grid is also one of 3 separate transmission operators who run the network in different parts of the country. National Grid supplies England and Wales, Scottish Power Transmission serves southern Scotland, and Scottish Hydro Transmission supplies northern Scotland and the islands. But we can't use this high voltage electricity directly. It has to be converted to the 240 volts we normally use in our homes and businesses and brought into our plug points. This job is done by the distribution network operators, or DNOs. There are 9 of them covering 14 regions across the UK, and again they are monopolies. Finally, like gas, there are a few small independent network operators who supply a small number of properties with electricity. So now you've got the power, how do you buy it? Well, that's the supply part of our story. Energy is sold on a wholesale market by the generators, and then different companies can trade in it and supply it directly to you. In the domestic market, our homes, we normally buy direct from these suppliers, and we pay for it through our electricity and gas meters. More than 95% of all domestic power is supplied by the big 6 energy companies: British Gas, EDF, npower, E.ON, Scottish Power and SSE. But smaller independent suppliers are coming to the fore, and the government wants many more in the future to offer us more choice. In the commercial market, for our shops, factories and businesses, there is a choice. You can buy direct from the suppliers, or you can buy through middlemen called energy brokers. These brokers, who are sometimes called consultancies, try to negotiate the best deal on your behalf with the suppliers. The commercial market is very volatile because energy is bought yearly, monthly, daily and even hourly, so there is a lot more risk. Finally, our energy sector wouldn't work without rules and a direction, and that's the policy and regulation part. Policy is made by government, and it determines what we do, how much power we have and where we get it from. The coalition government has put into place the biggest change to energy policy in decades, called electricity market reform. This is a set of legislation designed to move the UK to a low-carbon economy, but it'll cost more in the short term. There's now a big debate on how much consumers are willing to pay to go green. Energy policy changes with different governments, but its current aim is to give investors in the sector the security they need to build low-carbon power plants to keep our lights on. Finally, we have regulation, and that is mainly done by the Office of Gas and Electricity Markets, or as it's more often known, Ofgem. It's a body set up by, but independent of, government, which sets the rules by which the energy sector works. Created in 1999, Ofgem is supposed to police the energy sector to make sure the companies generating, supplying and building our energy systems obey the laws set by government. It is funded in 5-year cycles by the energy companies who have to pay a fee to operate in the UK. Ofgem issues fines and is supposed to ensure the energy markets work for the public and businesses, but Labour say it's ineffective and want to scrap it should they win the 2015 general election. That's it, a rather long but hopefully easy to understand guide to the UK energy sector. Here's the ELN Easy Guide to the power markets. Energy is traded around the world in two ways: as a financial, i.e. cash, or as a physical, i.e. lumps of coal, barrels of oil, tankers of gas. In the UK, power is traded on a